Hello, lovely people. We've got Will Mellors-Blair with us today. He is the co-founder and CEO of Fitpack. Before co-founding Fitpack, Will was headhunted to develop strategy for the UK government and also two Geneva-based tech startups. I'm really excited about this interview. Prior to his vocational career, Will played football professionally, both in the UK and over in the United States. Will attended and graduated from the University of Michigan, and it was there where he found his passion for formulating strategies for universal human health optimisation. His research and models have been utilised in organisations globally, and he has given talks to many renowned institutions. And he was just sharing with me, folks, that he does a lot of this off the cuff. And I always admire that kind of thing. And he's also just slipped into conversation that he's been invited to do a TEDx talk, which is just amazing. So welcome.
Hey, nice to be here, Estelle.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on. And just to give the audience members context, we got connected as a result of a previous podcast with Paul Snape, the CEO of the Bridge. And when I was interviewing him, he was telling me about something that you were running in his business. And I was really intrigued, and he was telling me about Fitpack. And I was like, wow, that's really innovative. So do you want to start by telling us a little bit about Fitpack?
Of course. So what we're trying to achieve at Fitpack, essentially, Estelle, is to shape the future workplace. So you did mention there my background. So when I essentially was first exposed to the corporate world, I saw how my colleagues kind of ran around to get to work, raced to get into the office, drank 5, 6, 7 coffees a day, didn't drink enough water, went to go and get a meal deal from Greg. So I saw all these very, to me anyway, abnormal behaviors to then try and achieve kind of productivity. So what we wanted to do at Fitpack essentially was to take good habitual routines like taking breaks, like being mindful, like having a healthy breakfast, like drinking water, etc., and putting this into a technological platform that HR could utilize to empower their employees to incorporate better work habits. So that's essentially what we're doing, is we are working directly with HR teams to provide them the tools to then deploy into their work spaces for their employees to then take more breaks, to be more mindful, to engage in a bit of stretching, just to ultimately help mental and physical health, which then will bolster their productivity at work.
Yeah, it just sounds so exciting. And I think I might have shared with you when we spoke before that 20 years ago, when I was heading up an HR team, and similarly, I could see people running around. I was stressed out myself. And I said, why don't we have lunchtime yoga?
Yeah.
and people looked at me like I was a bit bonkers, but it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But equally, I could see that people needed something like that. So you said you saw abnormal behaviors. So what's your what was it that made it feel abnormal for you?
I think it would be better served if I kind of depict my routine in a day, my health.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sure. So typically I get up at about 6 o'clock. Sometimes my body clock gets me up at like 5:30. So between 5:30 and 6, I'm awake. Before pressing snooze, which I don't press snooze, I press stop. Before getting out of bed, I meditate for 30 minutes now, Estelle.
Wow.
So yeah, it started out being 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but now it's half an hour a day. And that's not necessarily because I want to be a monk and I want to live in the Himalayas, but this is to essentially calm my brainwave state down, because we sleep typically between 6 and 8 hours a day as human beings. And what happens is we go through different brainwave states. So, beta to gamma to delta to theta, really deep sleep. And sometimes if we wake up during REM, or rapid eye movement, sometimes it's quite distressing for the body. So heart rate might be a bit elevated. So for a lot of people who are waking up like that in a stress state, for those people who then go and get toast and go and get their coffee, they are already at a disadvantage. Okay. So me meditating for that long, for that duration of time allows me to get in a very relaxed state.
Yeah.
What I do then is I consume some lemon water to hydrate. I then do a bit of light stretching on my yoga mat. I then go and get a really cold shower. So and that's all done before like 7 o'clock. Okay. So in an hour of my waking existence, I'm fueling my mind and my body ready to perform my day. So when we go back to the kind of, you know, what abnormal behaviors, I saw all of my colleagues just headless chicken running around, stressed and anxious, and just, I don't see any water bottles on the desk. All I see is Coca-Cola bottles and coffees. And it's like, those things are fine in moderation, but if I could help people incorporate just simpler habits into their day to day, like, hey guys, have a water bottle next to you, have a coffee too, but have a water bottle next to you. Hey, you finish your meetings back to back, you have 15 minutes break. Awesome. Take 5 minutes away from the laptop. These simple habits to incorporate that significantly boost productivity, been proven scientifically.
Yeah, I love that. And just explain the thinking, because I went through a lemon water drinking phase, but I overdid it and I became intolerant.
Oh, interesting.
to lemon water. So I had to cut it out. But the thing with intolerance is that you can then, you know, reintroduce it. And I just never have. But what's the thinking behind the lemon water for you? What does it do for you?
Yeah, I mean, well, lemons typically are infused with vitamin C.
Yeah.
And vitamin C is the detoxifying kind of mineral.
Right.
So I'm able to detoxify on an empty stomach.
Right.
Or consuming more foods.
Yeah.
What happens is a lot of people just eat straight away before hydrating, and the brain is dehydrated naturally from sleep.
Right.
So if I'm able to not only consume water, but also add that vitamin C as well, then I'm putting my body at a service and not a disservice.
Yeah. I love it. Loads of nuggets of genius already, folks. And so the other thing, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, because I might have got this right from me. So I'd read it. Is it good for your immune system as
Absolutely.
well?
Again, so I was going to go on to that next. So vitamin C is the immune boosting mineral.
Right.
So yeah, vitamin C. As much as you can get of it, please do. In moderation, of course, everything in moderation. You don't want to be eating, 10 oranges. But as much vitamin C as you can kind of consume, the better.
Yeah, no, great. And a question on, because I listened to Chris Evans and they went through a cold showering phase. So what, again, just explain to the audience the theory behind cold showering.
Sure. So for anyone that's heard of Wim Hof, or better known as the Iceman, his thesis and theory is that we as human beings are able to control our minds more than we believe we can. Okay, because a lot of human kind of behavior is dictated by subconscious programs in the brain. So what he does to essentially build that mental discipline is a thing called cold showering. Obviously, you have the physical benefits, but he leans more on the mental benefits. And what I experience when I jump in a cold shower, and by the way, Estelle, I don't kind of go in a warm shower. It's literally on cold. Like, it's the coldest it can go.
Yeah.
So as I jump in it, you have to use very controlled breathing patterns, because if not, you just want to jump out of it again. So for me, obviously, it's going to boost my immunity anyway, the cold shower, but it's more for mental discipline.
Yeah.
Because in my role, I'm being challenged most times during the day. So if I'm not mentally disciplined with my day to day, then I'm again putting myself at disservice. So when I jump in that cold shower, for the first 4 or 5 seconds, it's absolutely freezing. But then as soon as you have your breathing right and you inhale and exhale in a controlled way, all of a sudden, it doesn't feel like a cold shower. It feels warm. and your brain is just so used to that kind of cold sensation
Yeah.
that it becomes normal, and you get to a level of homeostasis from there. So yeah, I get in the cold shower for about 2-3 minutes a day, I'd say. Sometimes
Gosh.
longer if I'm enjoying it. You know, it's much more pleasant when it's hot outside.
Yes.
So when you're waking up and it's pitch black and it's cold outside, it's sometimes difficult.
Yeah.
But one thing that I found is that you can kind of trick your brain. So what I've got is I've got like a little light next to my shower that I turn on. So it's as if it's warmer in the room than it actually is.
Yeah. So you're
So yeah,
telling yourself, you're giving yourself a different message, aren't you?
that's it. I'm framing the messaging like this cold shower is going to be warmer than it actually is, even though it's not the case. It's still going to be very, very cold. But just that kind of brain discipline, that brain training that I try to incorporate
Yeah.
today.
Yeah. And I can tell already how, you know, even listening to your morning routine, how disciplined you are. Where does that come from? Because obviously you've been, you know, professional footballer, you know, where did your discipline start?
Yeah. I think discipline and regimentation can be looked at as healthy modalities as well as unhealthy modalities. And I definitely hold my hands up and say that in my past, my level of regimentation was unhealthy. But the
Yeah.
reason why I stick to kind of a set routine, AM especially, is kind of actions lead to reactions, right? And
Yeah.
inputs lead to outputs. So if I look logically at my morning routine, I'm waking up and not engaging on my phone. I'm doing something for my mental well-being. I'm then consuming water for my physical well-being, and then getting in the shower for my cold shower for my mental and physical well-being. If I look at that as a structure, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I've done, 15 to 25 activities in that week that's benefiting my mental and physical health. So that's the way I look at it.
Gosh. Yeah.
It's not necessarily I have to do this because if not, I'm failing, or if not, I'm not worthy. It's I'm doing these activities that are benefiting my mental and physical health directly. So that's the reason why
Yeah.
I've kept it up and it's so kind of ingrained, is because I know, logically speaking, that after I tick off these boxes, I'm going to get the benefits. So logically speaking, the reason why I'm so disciplined in my morning routine is because if you look at it, if I wake up and don't press snooze, if I meditate, if I then consume some lemon water, if I then cold shower and have a bit of a stretch, that's essentially 5 activities a day. Times that by 5 Monday to Friday, it's 25 activities a week that I know I've ticked off the box that is contributing to my mental and physical health improvement or enhancement, so to speak, or even maintenance, really.
Yeah.
So that's the way I look at it. I don't look at it as I need to do this, and if I don't do it, I failed. It's no, I want to do this because it's benefiting me.
Yeah. And you've completely just reframed something for me, you know, when you were talking about stacking up activities as well. So, because I love that sense of achievement.
Yeah,
So I like, you know, rather than thinking about, oh, I've got to do something, I love the fact that you're counting all those activities up. Is that part of Fitpack? Is that something that's been built into the system, or how does it
that's
work?
part of our product roadmap. So
Right.
we want essentially to empower HR teams to empower their people. Now, we're moving into a new kind of corporate setting. We're not in the office all the time. And I firmly believe, Estelle, we won't be in the office all the time ever again.
Yeah.
I really believe it will be a hybrid structure of office and home.
Yeah.
A lot of US companies have said you can work from home all the time. So actually, I'd go as far as saying in the future, we might be leaning more towards a home kind of working structure anyway. So the idea that HR teams now have got to look at this problem set a bit differently, I think companies should be rewarding their employees for habits or performing habits such as hydrating well or hydrating enough, taking enough breaks, doing things for their mental health. I think these should be rewarded. So as part of the next version of the product, we want to have a function where, based on kind of activities completed or behaviors shown, over time, rewards are given out as a result,
Ah,
like gamified as well, of course. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I can think of one client in particular that would love that element.
Amazing.
Yeah, no, that's really quite exciting. So, so this year I've read Atomic Habits and what's it called? That morning routine book. I'm looking around.
Is it The Miracle Morning?
That's it. Yes.
I've got
So I was wondering, one, who your influences are. So who's influenced you in terms of your morning routine, I guess? And have you read those books?
I have read those books. I like to read a book a week. That's
Wow, flipping heck, that's good.
yeah, it's my thing. So yeah, my reading speed is 100 pages an hour. Yeah, so I can literally, I remember vividly actually, this is a very anecdotal side note, so do humor me. I remember going to the airport to fly to America 2-3 years ago, and I always go to WH Smith and get a book and just think, yeah, I'll read it on the plane. I actually read the book before I got on the plane.
Flipping heck.
It happened.
Have you learned to speed read then? Or is that just, you've always read like that?
Yeah, I mean, have you watched Matilda? Of course you've watched Matilda.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I had a library around the corner from my house growing up. So I would go and rent out 12 books every week.
No.
And I'd read 12 books in a week as a little boy, and I'd go back to the next week, get 12 more, and do that. So I guess obviously as I like a muscle, it's just trained.
Yeah.
So I don't like speed read. I read every single word and it digests.
Yeah.
But in particular, who's my influences for my routines? I guess when I graduated university, I surrounded myself with experts in the fields of performance nutrition, performance psychology, epidemiology, all the science and health fields, really. And I kind of took golden nuggets from all of these people, and kind of also looked at very successful entrepreneurs and CEOs to see what they did, as well in terms of their work-life structure. And I've kind of like pieced it all together to make it match me, if that makes sense. So getting inspiration, testing it. I like to test. So for instance, I'm actually now plant-based, wholeheartedly plant-based.
Are you?
Yeah, I turned in November of 2016. So way before the plant-based.
Wow, that was quite early.
Yeah, there was no kind of plant-based alternative meats in stores when I was doing it. But the reason why I changed is I did a 30-day trial. So I cut out all meat, all dairy, for 30 days just to test it. Because I like to see the tangible kind of changes, but also the intangible changes like feeling as well. So after 30 days, it was remarkable, the changes, better sleep, my energy levels were through the roof. I'd lost a bit of visceral fat, so I was a bit leaner, just loads of little things that I thought would warrant me moving towards this level of lifestyle.
Yeah.
I've got nothing against meat eaters. I've got nothing against people that consume eat eggs and milk and drink milk. I don't mind. Like, it's each to their own. Whatever you want to do, you do that. But personally speaking, it was a decision that I made, and it's one that I've definitely enjoyed over time.
Yeah. We have just subscribed to. We've always done HelloFresh, but we've now moved over to Green Fresh.
Interesting.
And that's even healthier than HelloFresh. And yeah, we've ended up going down we're hardly eating any meat at the moment. And
how are you finding that? Are you getting cravings for it?
Well, another interesting point. So many years ago, I had to cut out lots of different food groups because I got ME, chronic fatigue.
Understood.
And so I was recovering from that. And so the family, has had to come along with me, basically. And because I was cooking, although my husband cooks as well, in all fairness, he's a great chef. But the other week we had my mother-in-law staying with me, and I thought, right, I better get cakes and biscuits in, and I bought all this junk food in, crisps.
Yeah.
And she left, and bless her, there was a lot of stuff in there that she couldn't eat because it had got soy in it. And But I expected the other two, my daughter and my husband, to have snaffled all the treats. And 2 weeks later, I said, I'm really proud of our family. That stuff's still in the cupboard.
I love that. I love that.
And what we've done over time, we've realised that we've re-educated our tastes, and our taste buds are just different. And they've both said, because I can't eat it anyway, they've both said, no, it's just too sickly and sweet.
Interesting. See how the palate and the brain changes over time once you make changes. It's interesting.
Yeah, but also your biome, because it influences, doesn't it?
Of course. Your gut as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. No, I was going to ask you something else. So, you said, I love that anecdote about reading, 12 books a week. Where does that come from? How did you start that whole thing? Because I used to hate going to the library.
Okay, I've got a little story to tell.
Go on.
So,
love stories.
Yeah. So my mum and I were pretty much best mates growing up. We're still pretty much best mates now, but growing up, it was just my mum and I.
Yeah.
And bless her, she would always allow me to do my thing. I wasn't a kid who wanted to go out and walk around the streets or anything like that. I was a kid that wanted to read. So one day, I think she told me this story. She said I was 5 years old, or maybe 4 years old. And she walked into my room and I was reading a book, and she was like, and I was reading the dictionary. Okay. And she was like, son, what are you reading? And I said, I'm reading the dictionary. And she was like, well, why are you reading the dictionary? And I was like, Mum, I want to know more words than anyone else.
And where did that come from?
I think it's just how my brain's programmed, if I'm honest. I think a bit of it maybe the genetics, it might be how my DNA is expressing itself.
Yeah.
But from a young boy, I've just always wanted to read. It's like little girls that just naturally dance.
Yeah.
Naturally sing.
Yeah.
I just naturally wanted to read.
Yeah.
So as a little boy, as I've obviously gone into, I was going to say kindergarten then, but we're not in the States, are we? When I got into nursery and then primary school, I'd already read, I think by like year 2, I'd already read all the books in the school. I think
wow.
And then they had to get me like special books from secondary school, year 7, at like age 10 for me, which was pretty cool. But having the library around the corner just allowed me, because I would read, and obviously kids' books aren't really thick, are they? Not 200, 300 page books. They're like 50 to 100 page books. So I'd read one a night. I'd finish school at like 3:30. I'd come back, I'd read a book. And then if I was allowed to stay awake for a little bit longer, I might start the next one.
It's really cool.
Yeah. So it was like a book and a half a day from the ages of like 7 until probably 12. And then in secondary school, obviously you've got loads of coursework. So you didn't have that kind of extracurricular time to read. Your reading was the coursework. So then I'd say I'd stayed at like 1 or 2 books a week during secondary school. And I'd say now pretty much a book a week, a book per 10 days is my average.
Yeah. So what are you reading at the minute?
The moment I'm actually reading, let me get my bag out. I'm actually reading my sister's book. She's just become an author.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So here it is. It is called I Am Not My Diagnosis, Reversing the Irreversible by Will Mellors-Blair.
Oh, wow.
So Carly is a holistic health specialist. She works with experts all over the globe. And essentially, she got diagnosed a few years back, well, many years back now, with multiple sclerosis. She had MS.
Yes.
So she initially went the traditional medical route. She started to do a lot of research herself, and she realized that there was a potentiality that through her lifestyle changes, through environment changes, getting less stress, that she could ultimately reverse the symptoms clinically. And she's done that, and she's achieved it.
Wow.
So
yeah.
She now works with clients all over the world to essentially help them change their mindset, change their environments, change how much they get stressed, change their diets, etc., to help people move towards better health and well-being, both mentally and physically. So her book signing, well, her pre-launch book signing was last week.
Oh, cool.
So I've got my signed copy here.
Ah, that's nice.
That's what I'm reading, yeah.
So I like the idea of a pre-launch book signing. Hadn't thought about that.
Pre-launch, invite close friends, family, maybe a bit of the press. Have a
Yeah.
Q&A. It was really cool. She had some prosecco in the corner, a few cupcakes.
Yeah.
She then had like a Q&A. A few of her clients came to like give testimonials. She then read a bit of the book, which was really cool.
Oh,
But
nice.
then, yeah, the launch is in March.
Yeah, mine is too.
Wow, March.
I'm behind. I'm behind.
I love it.
So where did she do her pre-launch then? Did she do it in a bookshop or in a venue?
So the pre-launch was at a networking space here in Nottingham.
Right.
It's called Antenna.
Right.
A co-working space. So she like had a nice sized room with loads of people there, kind of pictures, had a photographer and a videographer there as well.
Oh, brilliant.
Loads of banners like the one you've got behind you there as well. So yeah, really, really cool.
I was sat listening to you and I thought, wow, your mum must be so proud of you two, because, your sister's working worldwide. Come on, let's get into your average day, because you've been talking worldwide, haven't you?
Yeah.
Tell us about your average day.
Sure. So, well, I've already that kind of named my morning routine to get me prepared for my day. So at the moment, I'm moving the company through another investment round. And what that entails essentially is meetings all day with investors all over the world. So for instance, the past couple of days, I've had meetings with investors in Estonia, meetings with investors in Madrid, San Francisco, in Moscow in Russia. I've had meetings in Singapore. I had one meeting in China, meetings in New York, and a few in Europe, rest of Europe. So not really much in the UK, because we're kind of gearing more towards rest of world and the US in particular. But at the moment, my job is literally meetings with investors, kind of presenting the idea, presenting the business case, presenting our current customer base and how we've helped our early customers, kind of presenting the opportunity, not only financially, but phenomenologically as well, kind of how we're different. So I'd say maybe like 60 to 80% of my day at work at the moment is presenting.
Yeah.
And I'd say the kind of the remaining 15, 20% is more kind of preparing for upcoming presentations or preparing for conversations with new potential clients. But I'd say at the moment, the full focus in my day-to-day is investor relations and ensuring that we've got the right venture partners for this next phase.
And what is the kind of bigger vision for the future? Where are you wanting to take Fitpack to?
Sure. So my goal essentially is to empower as many individual people to better their workday routines. So I want to personally touch 1 billion people. Like that's kind of my overall kind of modus operandi, kind of raison d'être, my reason for existence kind of thing. So 1 billion people can be dissected into, let's say, 100 to 250,000 companies. So the overall mission really, Estelle, is to get into as many companies as we possibly can globally. I've actually started having a UK operation as of yesterday. We've now got a New York City, so US operation. And I had a conversation with a man, a sales development representative, a couple of days back to start the Dutch, so German speaking as well as Benelux, so like Belgium, etc., and also the Nordics. So the goal really this next year, so 2022, is to have UK operation, US, and Europe as well.
Wow, that is phenomenal. And so you kind of touched on purpose and mission in life there. Where do you think that comes from?
I think personally, because I've been exposed to world leading experts in the health and well-being fields, I think my natural kind of fascination and how engrossed I am with the idea of health optimization for human beings, I think my purpose comes from that. And I think I have a skill set of doing it myself, proving it myself, and then delivering the research.
Yeah.
I think I'm very good at kind of encapsulating the reasons why we should put our phones down after a meeting, or the reasons why we should take our earphones out and just walk in silence. You know, these little things that I've done, tried and tested, and have the research to back it. I think that's where it comes from. It's just my fascination with the fields of health and wellness. I think it just comes from that, Estelle.
And where does the fascination for health and wellness come from? Where does that hark back to?
Yeah, that definitely comes from my early playing days. So, might not have mentioned, as a 9-year-old, I signed to play football for Manchester United.
Wow.
And I was at that point surrounded by arguably the world's best manager in Sir Alex Ferguson. Yes, I didn't train underneath him, but he was walking around the grounds when we were training and stuff. So I think being around elite level kind of athletes from that age, I kind of wanted to be the best. So at that point, I was always wondering, what can I do to be faster? What can I do to be fitter? What can I do to sleep better? What can you know what I mean? These things.
Yeah.
That's how it started off for me. It started off with like research questions. What do I do in order for me to achieve X? X might be a faster 100 meters, whatever it is. Like,
yeah.
It started off with research questions. Once I found the answers to those research questions and started to implement them into my life, I then had the tools, what I needed, which I could then present to the populace, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Have you thought about writing a book yourself?
It's going to happen at some point, Estelle. Absolutely.
I know a good book coach.
Okay.
No, I was saying to a client earlier that I procrastinated for 10 years over mine.
Really?
And it was, and I think I was on manuscript 3 or 4, and I realized I was getting stuck again. And then I took the plunge.
I think what I'm going to do is one step back. I actually already have a preface written.
I've
got a preface written, and the book is called The Healthy Habit Loop.
Ooh.
Yeah. So what I've essentially done is I have crafted a universal health optimization hypothesis that basically takes into account 10 activities, and we'll talk about it at a different time. I don't want to go too much into it, but it's like 10 activities that every person can do each day that will guarantee better health and well-being. And it's things like not snoozing.
Yes.
It's things like meditating in the morning. It's things like hydrating. It's things like having a healthy breakfast. It's things like stretching and moving your body. Like simple things that you can kind of drag and drop into your existing schedule, tick off the boxes, and you'll guarantee you better health and well-being. And what I wanted to do in the preface was give an overview of me, my background, but I'm not going to go on to the next bit because I want to kind of grow Fitpack. Ultimately, Fitpack will be acquired, so I'll sell the company. I think at that point, I'll be able to then add more color to what I want to write.
Yeah. No, I really love it. And the not snoozing thing, are you familiar with Mel Robbins?
Yeah.
And she talks about, doesn't she, that moment where she was doing too much snoozing, and that simple technique that she came up with, which was counting, what is it, backwards, 5, 3, 2, 4, 3, 1, get out of bed.
Jump up, do it.
Yeah.
So I read some more of the science behind the snooze and what it does to the brain, and it puts your brain into a state called inertia, or brainwave state inertia. And essentially, your brain, for those kind of 8 to 10 minutes that you're in snooze, it thinks you're back sleeping.
Right.
So when that alarm goes off again in 10 minutes and you wake up feeling groggy, it's because your brain literally thought it was time to go to sleep again.
Right.
But you're not ready for sleep because your brain waves are at beta, which is essentially almost waking states.
Yes.
So you're like confusing your brain, which is why the snooze is pretty much it's the devil. It is the devil. Just best off, guys, press stop and just lay in bed and breathe, because you naturally wake up yourself.
Yes. Yeah. No, I love that tip. Yeah, for sure, gonna try it. And I love the idea of I hadn't realized that actually you could wake up in a stressed out state either.
It's real. It's a real thing. You know, in any given moment, we are either activating the parasympathetic nervous system or the sympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system essentially is the stress state, and the parasympathetic nervous system is the resting state. So at any one moment, you're activating one or the other. So in sleep, because of obviously dreams and being in that kind of parapsychological state, because of the brain activity, as you wake up, a lot of the times you're still kind of playing that out cognitively. So you're not actually ready to be in the waking reality, which is now. So you need, 15, 20 minutes to transition from the sleep state to the waking state.
Yeah.
Only we were taught this at primary school.
I know, all these skills to optimize. There was, when I was reading your interview notes, there were so many things that resonated with me. One of them was the optimization. So I work with people to well, you can probably see my strap line behind there, but I optimize brilliance, and it is all about those habits and routines. I wish I knew more about the well-being stuff. I've got a bit of knowledge, which I've used myself. But from your perspective, what would you say is one of the best things that you can do to optimize performance?
I actually was on a podcast last week, and I got asked the same question, and I kind of put it into 3 very easy to do, no financial commitment at all. It costs £0 and 0 pence to do what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
3 things. 1, meditate more, people, please do that. 5-minute bursts.
Yeah.
If we all know when we feel stressed or anxious or we feel a bit racy, we all know when that happens, because we get this like buzzy feeling in our bodies and in our minds, and a lot of the time we are not able to think clearly. So in moments like that, instead of continuing to engage in that stress response, just sit and breathe for a little bit. It's insane how quickly you can change that state. So number 1 is meditate more in short bursts.
Yeah.
Number 2 is go for more walks.
Yeah.
Literally, it's crazy how just changing the environment and looking at some trees and people can change how you feel.
Yes.
And that optimizes mental well-being.
Yeah.
And number 3, please hydrate more, everyone.
Yes.
Those 3 things: more mindfulness and meditation. Go for more walks, because number 1, your mind feels good, and your body, you're getting blood flow to the body. And number 3, hydrate. Those 3 things. If you do those 3 things consistently well, optimization is a given. Byproduct is a given.
And what about those that, I'm going to include myself here, that struggle with meditation? So I can be mindful. So the backstory to this, I went on a mindfulness course, and I sat in a shed for 6 weeks, not for the whole 6 weeks, but on a weekly course. And I was like a corporate idiot, sat on a plastic chair like that in my corporate gear. Everyone else was on the floor in sweatpants and stuff. And I could, so I completely bought into living life mindfully. And that's one of the things that I definitely have got. What I struggle with is, so for example, in between clients, I will go downstairs, sit on the sofa, look out the window, and I'll just focus on the trees. And that's about as much as I can do. Do you have any tips on how you can take it to the next level?
Sure.
Got
you. So on your phone, go to timer. Okay.
Yeah.
Put in 2 minutes and press go. You then close your eyes in a comfortable position, and you do square breathing. So picture a square like this. So you're gonna inhale for 5. You're gonna hold your breath for 5. You're gonna exhale for 5. And you're gonna hold your breath for 5. And you're gonna repeat that cycle just 6 times. That's 2 minutes.
Cool, I love it.
Literally, square breathing, eyes closed. 3 rounds is a minute, 6 rounds is 2 minutes. All of a sudden, your timer goes off. You've just meditated for 2 minutes.
Yeah. So again, but what I love about that is you've made it tangible, because that makes it like, I can do that.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah,
Actionable,
no, that's,
tangible. I mean, when I first started, I think for many of us as human beings, we're not accustomed to being mindful. So naturally, we're just all in our minds and all in our heads. So when it comes to closing our eyes, there's that many thoughts going on, like it's uncomfortable. So we just like wake up again.
that's
So
it.
when I first started, it was more kind of connected to my breath. So making sure that I'm being mindful of my inhale, mindful of my exhale. Because what happens is with the mind, I look at thoughts as clouds. So I look
Yeah,
at a thought as a cloud. So I know that thought comes in, but it's going to go again because thought's just transient and temporary. It's going to move and shift, right? So I now sit in silence for half an hour when I meditate. There's not any music. It's just me, myself, some birds chirping outside. And when a thought comes, I just notice it. I don't get anxious or stressed by it because I know that it's going to go because it's a cloud, right? But again, I've been meditating
yes.
so many years now. So it's like I said earlier on, it's like I'm trained, and it's like a muscle. I've trained the muscle of meditation. So now it's pretty much second nature for me.
Yeah. And you have such a lovely calm air about you.
Thank you.
You can tell that you know, whatever you're doing is really working, and you seem really together and balanced, and yeah.
I appreciate that. It hasn't always been like this. Thank you for the comment. I really do appreciate it. It hasn't always been like this. During my early life, I experienced a lot of mental trauma, not necessarily from what I experienced outside in the real world, but what I was experiencing inside. Because like I said earlier on, like my brain was built like this. My brain's been studied in universities for how it functions. And earlier on in life, I would have that many thoughts and ideas come to me at once as a little boy. I just didn't know how to process it, you know? So what would happen is I'd get distracted, and my teachers would say, "Hey, William, why are you getting distracted? Here's a detention," you know? So they would negatively
Yes.
reinforce how my brain was working. So I've been able over time, and I've worked with psychotherapists, I've worked with psychosynthesis coaches to help me compartmentalize when these thoughts come in. So I'm not having to be racing, get stressed and anxious about them. Actually, this thought can go there, this thought can go here. So now I'm able to process in this way, so I can actually focus in the present moment on set task. Like now, we are talking on your podcast. So I'm focused here. Fitpack
Yeah.
exists.
Yeah.
My phone doesn't exist. The task that I've got to do after this call doesn't exist. So I'm just here and now. So again, that's been trained over time.
Yeah. No, but I really get that sense from you.
Appreciate that.
It's, you know, and I've caught my, you know, and even to the extent where your state is influencing my state, and I've been like,
Wow.
oh, right, need to calm down.
That's okay. That's
So
a really
really,
nice comment. That's really nice.
yeah, no, really impressive. Yeah. So we are going to start to bring things to a close,
That sounds
because
good.
I had a sneaky suspicion we'd go off, because it, you know, and I just knew you were going to be an interesting guy, and that actually we wouldn't need a script behind. There was one thing that I did want to follow up on, and so I talk about values, beliefs being inextricably linked. So it's often described as like a mug tree. So you've got center, which is your value, and then you've got beliefs that are hooked around the value. But those beliefs come from those experiences. You've referred to some of them already, you know, and that's part of the podcast, is to understand, how is this brilliant person brilliant, and what are those experiences that created who they are? And one of the questions is around what's a limiting belief that you've got over, and you were talking about the ability to shine brightly. You know, my book's called Inner Brilliance, How to Shine.
Oh wow. I need a copy of this, please.
And that was
this.
well, I'll send you a copy.
Please.
You know, so where, tell me about that.
This comes back down to observational learning, domestication, personal belief. So as little boys and girls, we run around the playground, and we go home to our parents, and we go to our families' houses, and we watch TV, and we play on our games. And all the time we are like sponges. So we are taking in everything from the exterior and holding it as true. So your mum might say, I believe in this, so you should too. And as a little boy or girl, you're going to accept that as your own truth. So over time, what happens is we've built this kind of big, gigantic belief system about the world and about our role in the world. And we never think to challenge what we've learned because it's just what we've been used to. One of the things that I have found after speaking with many people globally is that the ability to believe in ourselves has been tarnished because of how many times we've been rejected, how many times people say we can't do that, etc. So from very young, I was quite stubborn in the fact that I wouldn't allow anyone to tell me that I couldn't do anything. So even though I've had many rejections in my time, both playing football and also vocationally, I've always known that that doesn't have to define what I believe about myself. And I feel like each and every person can embody this truth that we all can shine in our own right. We've all got our own divine kind of attributes, skill sets, and kind of ways we want to do things. So I think the one thing that I try to install in every single person I meet is self-belief. Because if we don't believe in ourselves, even an ounce, then who else is going to believe in us?
Yeah, absolutely. Such good, wise words. And it's interesting. I've heard that as a pattern of behavior. It's a frequent pattern of behavior where someone says you can't do something, and that person, you referred to it as being stubborn. You could call it grit, determination, bravery, all of that. You know, I refer to myself as a bit of a stubborn ass, to be honest.
Yeah, I love that.
But again, it's that typical, don't tell me I can't do something, because I will bloody well do it. And it's amazing what performance can come from that, isn't it?
That's it. I think that if we all have self-belief in whatever undertaking we are pursuing, we're more likely to make it happen.
Yeah.
We really are. We're more likely to make it happen, because there's just a good positive energy behind self-belief, you know, because everyone feels that. If you believe in yourself, people feel that stuff, and they are more likely to resonate with what you're trying to achieve.
Yes. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, there was that study, wasn't there, with children, I think it was the 60s or the 70s, where there were correlations with what the teacher believed and how the students performed. And when the teachers believed they were intelligent, the performance went up. When they believed they weren't intelligent, performance went down. But the opposite was true in the study groups.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But I also think that's the power of a leader as well. You know, demonstrating belief in someone, how you can positively influence someone's performance and behavior. And I'm not talking about blind belief, but you know what I mean.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I was quite fortunate, like I said, to be surrounded by such experts in their own fields. And I always had the encouragement from each individual to kind of push me forwards and propel. So I do get how kind of displaying that belief into someone else genuinely can help them kind of do better in life as well, and better in their undertakings, for sure.
So to close, what would you say is your biggest insider secret? What would you like to share with people?
Biggest insider secrets. You are able to alleviate your stress and anxiety in 5 minutes.
Ah, nice. With the tools and techniques that you've described earlier.
Literally. Because what happens is we feel stress in moments. And when it happens in a moment, it takes over our whole being. Like the whole body is taken over by this stress. If we're able to incorporate the trigger of, if I feel stressed, if I feel anxious, I should do X. X should be mindfully meditate and breathe. Use the breath to alleviate the issues. So that's the biggest thing that I found for myself, because like I said, my brain works at such a speed that sometimes in my past, if I didn't take care of my breathing, I would become overwhelmed, and then it would become kind of crippling. So what I can say for everyone is, when you feel stressed or anxious in the moment, just take 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes to breathe mindfully, and you can be astounded by the results.
Yeah, no, I love it. Well, you really are a model of excellence. And as I say, I could feel your calm vibes during the podcast. How would you like people to connect with you? What's the best way?
Sure. If you want to kind of get connected and get acquainted vocationally, professionally, get me on LinkedIn. It's Will Mellors-Blair. Or if you want to kind of get to know who I am on more of a extracurricular kind of see Will and hang out kind of vibes, then get me on Instagram. It's W Mellors-Blair.
Lovely. And what about finding out about Fitpack? Is it all the W's, Fitpack?
Yep. So go on to LinkedIn and check out the company page. It's Fitpack, Fitpack. Or if you want to kind of engage with our content more on a lighter, more light-hearted vibe, then get us on Instagram. It's just Fitpack.
Great, lovely. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Also the website. Go on www.fitpack.io.
Lovely. No, that's great. Thank you so much. I've been making loads of notes because there's just been so many nuggets of genius.
I really appreciate the words. Thank you for having me on, Estelle.
No, it's been a pleasure.